All right, so we're going to begin this review. I'll have it published by the time you guys leave for school. But guys, focus. Okay. So the problems that you'll see on your quiz are very similar to the ones that you're going to see on this review. Some of them are going to say to write it in standard form. When we say standard form, we mean vertex form, right? So I mean vertex form, right? What is vertex form? What does that look like? Y equals what? A x minus h squared plus k, right? So that's what it looks like in standard form or vertex form. If it already looks like this and it says right in standard form, it's going to have a line that says vertex form, so you won't have to guess. You are going to have to convert it, and if it says complete the square, then that's some clue also that you're going to have to do a little bit more work to actually rewrite your equation, right? So why don't we start with that? Let's rewrite this equation or this function that we have written down here by completing the square, right? So this is maybe one of the trickier ones where there's a number in front, it doesn't divide evenly, but help me out, right? How would I start it? So I would say h of x is equal to what? 3. Okay, good. I want to take that 3 out, right? If there's something in front of the x squared, take it out. Am I taking it out of this entire thing? Yeah, just the 3x and the 5x, right? So this is going to become an x squared plus, and it's going to be a 5 over 3x. And then I'm going to add a little space inside. And then I'm going to leave the 1 on the outside. It's going to be a plus 1, and then minus that same little whatever number that is. All right? Now the next task is to figure out what actually goes inside of that little space. All right? How would I figure that out? Yeah, so take your middle number, divide by 2 squared. Or you can multiply it by a half. Sometimes that's what I like to do just so that it's a little bit easier. If you did 5 over 3 divided by 2 like that, you would have to keep change flip regardless, right? So this is going to be the same as 2 over 1, which turns into 5 over 3 times 1/2. And so this is going to get you 5 over 6. So this is my b over 2, and then I want to square it. When I square this, I get 25 over 36. All right, so in this little space is going to be 25 over 36. All right. All right, so that's what goes inside of the parentheses. What should go out of the parentheses in that minus spot? Okay, same thing. Is it the exact same thing? It's going to be part of it, right? 25 over 36. But what's missing? What happens with, hold on. Right, that one right here, this 25 over 36 has that 3 on the outside. So that means whatever goes here, it's not just going to be that number, it's going to be this 3 in front of it as well. So if I do, this is the same as 3 times this, I need to multiply by 3 to here as well. So 3 times 25 over 36. And then you can simplify that. 3 and 36 is going to make 12, right? So then I get 12 on the bottom. So really this becomes 25 over 12. All right? And then this part here is going to become, right? So this is going to become 3 times, right? The point of completing that square is that we can rewrite it, right? So this is going to be something squared, right? What's going to go in those parentheses? Yeah, good. X plus 5 over 6 squared. All right? And then I still have that plus 1 minus 25 over 12. So plus 1 minus 25 over 12. And then I just, very last thing to complete this square, I want to combine those like terms, right? So the 1 minus 25 over 12, how would you combine those? Right, so this right here, how would I combine that? Yeah, right, so 1 over 1 is the same as 12 over 12. And then I can do 12 minus 25, which is negative 13. So that means my function in standard form, h of x, it's going to be 3 times x plus 5 over 6 squared minus 13 over 12. All right, So then this, on your quiz, on the line that says standard form or vertex form, this is what you would write. So standard form, it's going to look like that. Or it might be a little bit hard to see. Let me try to zoom in a bit. All right. Are you okay with that part of it? All right, so that's the part that's going to require probably the most amount of work, and you guys need to be careful, right? Little things, if you're careless, could mess up this entire problem. So try to be careful. Don't make that mistake. It's only 4 problems, but we're probably going to give you ample time to be able to work through these carefully. Just because the little pieces of information after this should be super easy, right? Once you get that down, right, can we find a vertex? -5/6, comma, -13/12, right? How did I get those numbers? Right, look at it, right? It's HK, right? H, comma, K, all right? Also, a super easy thing is the axis of symmetry. On the line that says axis of symmetry, what are you going to write? X equals -5/6. If you just write 5/6, am I going to give you full credit? No, right? It needs to be the equation of a line. It needs to be x equals. Another super easy thing, your y-intercept, right? Look at the original problem that was in general form. Just by looking at that, how do we figure out our y-intercept? Right, it's 0, comma c, right? So 0, comma 1, 0, comma 1. All right, what might require a little bit more work is your x-intercepts. All right, how do we find our x-intercepts? Set it equal to 0. You have options. You can either use what we wrote in standard form or vertex form, or you can use the original one and set this equal to 0. It doesn't matter which one you do. I think for the sake of this problem, it looks easier to just use quadratic formula with the original problem instead of having to isolate this x squared and then square root both sides, right? I think we would rather, I'll just use the quadratic formula. So using the quadratic formula, I'll do that off to the side. It's going to be x equals -b, so negative, what is that? 5, yeah, -5, plus minus the square root of 5 squared minus 4ac, so minus 4 times 3 times 1 over 2 times, what's in front, 3? Yeah, 2 times 3. And so that's going to get you, whoa, -5 plus minus 25 minus 4 times 3 times 1 is 12. So 25 minus 12 is the square root of 13 over 2 times 3 is 6. So I get these as my x-intercepts. How are you going to actually write that in your answer? Right, so that answer that we just got, comma 0, right? We need to write them as an ordered pair. So it's going to be in parentheses, -5 plus minus the square root of 13 over 6, comma 0, right? You can write the plus minus as the same thing, right, in your 2 intercepts. You don't need to write them separately, right? But no matter what, it should be an ordered pair. If you write x equals, I will take some points off, just because a couple lines above it, we already have an x equals, and that represents a line. So you don't want to confuse yourself. Some of the other things that we were asked were the domain and range. All right, before I move on, are we okay with this one? So far?
Could you have solved it by putting it into like the other formula that doesn't negative b?
Yeah, you could have, right? So there's some, if it doesn't say to complete the square, you probably don't want to complete the square, right? You probably just want to do -b over 2a to find the x coordinate of your vertex, plug that in, and then get the y coordinate. And that's another way to check, right? Maybe you're not sure, like maybe you think you did something wrong when you completed the square, and you're like, I don't know how I feel about that. So what you can do is you can use -b over 2a to check, right? And make sure that you do get -5 over 6 and -13 over 12. All right? I would do that if you have time at the end, right? Maybe if you want to just double check. George? Just because in standard form, did I write it? Where did I write it? Up there. the formula is always x minus h. So if there's already a plus inside of your parentheses, then you just flip the sign. Yeah, right. So let's say if I got x minus 5 over 6 squared, right, then h would be 5 over 6 positive. But if I see a plus there already, the only way to get a plus is the minus a negative. So it would just change the sign of whatever you see on the inside. All right. Other things that we were asked were the domain and range, right? Domain should be super easy, right? What's our domain? Negative infinity to infinity, right? All real numbers, always. That should be the one part of the quiz that you don't even have to think, right? It's always going to be negative infinity to infinity. The range, you have to think a little bit harder, but it's still just information that you get from your vertex. So just keep in mind, right? I kind of went over this Monday. Is this parabola opening up or down? Up, right? How can we tell? Right, A is positive, so I know for sure it's going to open up. If it's opening up, that means our lowest point is going to be at our vertex, and our range is going to be a bracket k, comma, infinity. So use the k coordinate of your vertex, right? If it was opening down, it would be negative infinity, comma, k with a bracket, right? Because then it's going from bottom to top. It would start at negative infinity, and then it would end at your k value, all right? So then, keeping that information in mind, how would I write my range here? If it's opening up, and we have a vertex already. Good, bracket, negative 13 over 12, comma, infinity. So this is our domain, this is our range. So there's a lot of information here that you get from other things that you already found. Right, so the vertex you see kind of gave us like 2 other things. All right, very last thing you have to graph, right? You are going to have to graph by hand on your quiz. All right, we're going to give you a blank graph. You can label the axes accordingly. If your vertex is at a fraction, right, just use the best estimate. Like I'm just going to say that this is x and y. So I'm going to say this is x, this is y. And negative 5 over 6, comma, negative 13 over 12. Well, I know negative 5 over 6 is kind of close to 1, or negative 1, but it's not quite there. So I'm going to say that that's right there. And then negative 13 over 12 is a little bit bigger than negative 1, so it's going to go right there. So then I know my vertex should be somewhere right there. Right, just a rough estimate. I'm not going to be too picky if I see like, oh, is it slightly above the line? Is it slightly less? No, that's not that serious. What I don't want to see, though, is that it's just completely wrong. Like, let's say you get a vertex and then maybe you think that it's right there or something, right? That would be wrong, right? Just because that's not the ordered pair that you wrote down, all right? Another thing that we can do from here is draw our axis of symmetry, right? Draw a little dotted line. And then we have, what else? A y-intercept. So I'm going to graph that point at 0, 1. And using my axis of symmetry, I can figure out that the other point that would go right across from it, across from the axis of symmetry, would be somewhere right there. So you can use symmetry to kind of figure out what the rest of your graph should look like. You should have at least a couple points there, right? I don't really need to see the x-intercepts on your graph, just because graphing 5 or negative 5 plus or minus the square root of 13 over 6, like you're never going to be able to graph that 100% accurately. But as long as you have the y-intercept, the vertex, and another point, you should be able to sketch your parabola, which looks something like that. All right. Yeah. All right, do we see why it's only 4 questions? Because that was only one of them. All right, but that's about as challenging as they get, right? This is about as much information as we would ask of you in one single problem. Christian?
Oh, never mind.
Oh, you got it? Okay.
So it has 4 or 5 questions?
4. All right. Questions on this one? I know it was a lot. Okay. What about the next one, right? Let's also try this one by completing the square. Right, what can we do with this one to start it, right? How would I start completing the square? Take the negative out? Good. So I'm going to take the negative out. This is going to be a negative. You can treat it like a -1. And then it would become an x squared minus 2x. Am I taking the negative out of everything? Just the first two, right? I don't really want to do the, I want to leave the 9 alone. So this is going to be plus a little blank, and then plus 9, and then I'm going to do minus a little blank. What should go in that little blank? 1? Good, how'd you get 1? Yeah, b over 2 squared. So I'm going to take this -2, and I'm going to do -2 over 2, which is -1 squared, and -1 squared is 1. So then it's going to be a +1 here, and then a -1 here, right? But keep in mind, we have something on the outside that we need to multiply that 1 by. -1, right? We see that -1 outside of our parentheses. So that means I need to multiply this one here by -1. All right, so then I'm going to multiply, and then that's going to make it a +1. All right, 1 times -1 is -1. And so that just changes our sign. All right, so then I end up with f of x equals, right? What can we do from there? How would I write it down? -1. You said x minus 1 squared. Good. And then what's outside of it? Plus 10. Very good. So that means this is my equation in vertex form, or standard form. Right, this part of it. And we did that by completing the square. All right, so they're not always going to take forever. They're not always going to be like a crazy amount of work. Just some things that you need to think about, right? So again, if you didn't know to change the sign, you would have gotten something wrong. So just be careful with that. All right, what information can I get from this? All right, what's our vertex? 1, 10. Right, it's always h, k, right? What else can I get? My axis? What's my axis of symmetry? X equals 1, good. We have an original one in standard form, or in general form, right? What's our y-intercept? 0, 9. Very good. Our form is a x minus h. So that minus that you see in front is not, you're not carrying that with your h, right? H is always just the number. Or if you think of it using transformations, like we did a couple weeks ago on your other test, it's always the opposite of what you see on the inside.
Okay, so positive, it's negative.
It's just with the number that's on the outside that's going to stay the same. So the plus 10 is going to stay a positive 10. It's just what's on the inside, that flip sign. All right? All right, good. And then the only piece of information here that's going to require a little bit more work is the x-intercepts. All right, so I can find the x-intercepts by setting this equal to 0. It looks like we can do one of two things. You can either do quadratic formula if you want to, or complete the square. But we already have something that looks fairly simple to solve if we just do it by square rooting. So I'm going to take my equation in standard form, or vertex form, and I'm going to set that equal to 0. So -1, x minus 1 squared, plus 10 equals 0. And then let's solve this by square rooting, right? So let's subtract the 10. I get a -1, x minus 1 squared equals -10. Divide by -1. And then we get an x minus 1 squared equals 10. And then square root both sides. So we get an x minus 1 equals plus minus the square root of 10. And then you add 1 to both sides, and then you get x equals 1 plus minus the square root of 10. But again, once you get those numbers, you're going to want to write them as ordered pairs. So my x-intercepts as an ordered pair is going to be 1 plus minus the square root of 10, comma 0. Again, if you don't write it as an ordered pair, you'll get some points off. So just be careful with that. All right. right, what else do we need? Domain and range. What's our domain? Negative infinity to infinity. All right, always. What's our range? Negative infinity to 10. Good, with a bracket. All right, how did we know it was going to be that? Because we know that it's opening down because of that negative on the outside. And if it's opening down, it's going to start at negative infinity and end at 10. So this is our domain, this is our range, right? And that's about as much information as we would ask of you. The only thing from here is that you need to graph it. All right? So we're going to give you a blank graph. You'll have axes. It's not just going to look like a grid like that. You'll have actual axes to base it off of. But I'm just going to start. Just maybe make it like that. I'm just going to say that's my x-axis. And I'll say this is my y-axis. And if my vertex is at 1, 10, oh, that wasn't a good idea. Let me make it down like that. So I'm going to say that this is x, this is y. 1, 10 is going to be way up here. I'm going to make it go by 2s just so that it fits on the graph. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. So 110 is going to be like right there. And the other thing that I have is the axis of symmetry from that vertex. And then I know that 0, 9, my y-intercept is going to be somewhere right there. By symmetry, I can plot the exact same point on the opposite of that axis of symmetry. So right there in blue. And then you would want to plot your x-intercepts 1 plus minus the square root of 10. I don't exactly know what the square root of 10 is, but I know that it's a little bit bigger than 3, right? Because the square root of 9 is 3. And if I do 1 plus a little bit more than 3, it's going to get me a little bit more than 4. So maybe somewhere right there. Again, it doesn't have to be perfect as long as it's not super far off, right? I'm not going to be super picky with the radical answers about where they're going to be. And then if you can get that one but don't know the other one, just use symmetry to find out where it's going to be, right? So go approximately the same units over. So it should be somewhere right there. And then so our graph is going to open down something like that. All right, so let me zoom in. You should, to the best of your ability. I mean, this one I think was a little bit more straightforward than the other one. At least just plot the points. Again, I'm not going to be super picky about exactly where it's going to be, but I need to at least see that there's points there. Ella?
Do you want us to know the axis of symmetry for the test coming
up? Yeah, do it, just so that it helps you out a little bit to be able to plot the points accurately. Right. One way that you can tell if you maybe made a mistake is, let's say for some reason I got my x-intercepts is, I don't know, maybe they were both negative and they're like there's one here, for example, and there's one here. Like maybe for some reason that's what you got as your x-intercepts. Do you guys see how that doesn't make sense? Because then if you tried to graph it and you tried to go across the x-intercepts, that looks really weird. Right, so that's one way to tell if you made a mistake, right? Your answers should make sense in the context of your graph, right? So try not to do that. All right, let me undo all that. Good with this one, guys? What time do we leave? Oh, we're almost done. Oop. Okay, so maybe something like 3. If it doesn't say to complete the square, you don't have to complete the square. Right, so if you don't have to complete the square, what was the other way that we found the vertex? Negative b over 2a, right? So then a is this number that's in front of the x squared, b is the number in front of the negative 7. So if I do x equals negative b over 2a, this is going to get me x equals 7 over 2 times negative 2, which is negative 7 over 4. So I know for sure that that's negative 7 over 4 comma something. To figure out what the something is, just plug this into your original equation. So then this is going to get me negative 2 times negative 7 over 4 squared minus 7 times negative 7 over 4 plus 5. And then you just want to simplify that and solve for the k coordinate. And then doing that, that's going to get you a negative 2 times 49 over 16 plus 49 over 4 plus 5. And then negative 2 over 16 is going to simplify to 1/8. So this is going to get me negative 49 over 8. Plus, to get the same denominator here, I would multiply the top and the bottom by 2 to get 8. So this is going to get me plus 98 over 8 plus 5. And then simplifying that is going to get me a 49, a positive 49 over 8 plus 5. And to get 49 over 8 plus 5 as a single number, just write over 1 and get a common denominator. So I'm going to do times 8 on the top and on the bottom. So it's going to get me 49 plus 40 over 8, which is 89 over 8. So you could have completed the square to get your vertex, but sometimes that's a little bit tricky, right? I feel like with this, there's no way around it. I feel like it's going to be a little bit tricky regardless, but it's really your preference if it doesn't have directions.
On the test, is there going to be a lot of the ones for continuous square where you have to like take out a number?
I do know for sure there's 2 completing the square ones. The difficulty of them is going to vary. Like I think one of them is a little bit easier than the other one. All right, but again, that's how you find the vertex, not by completing the square, right? That's how you do it using negative b over 2a. Do you want me to zoom in anywhere? Okay, let me zoom in there. All right, so lastly, to find the equation in standard form, if you're given a vertex and you're given a point, right? We did this in the beginning of yesterday's class. Does anyone remember how to start it? Plug everything in, right? I have a vertex. What letters do those represent? H and K. And then I have a 0.35. I'm just going to call that X and Y. And then I'm going to plug this into my vertex form, which is Y equals AX minus H squared plus K. All right, so just plug every bit of this in. So this is going to be 5 equals A times X minus H. So 3 minus negative 2 is a 3 plus 2 squared. And then plus K, so plus 3. And then you want to solve this for A and then plug A back into your vertex form. So this is going to get me 5 equals A times 5 squared. And then when you subtract 3 on both sides, well, actually, let me erase that, right? That's going to get you a 2. So I get 2 equals A times 5 squared. So I get 2 is 25A, and then I divide both sides by 25. And so I get A equals 2 over 25. Right, what do we do with that number? Right. Yeah, right, plug it into this formula here. So then I'm going to plug in 2 over 25, and this is going to get me Y equals 2 over 25 X minus H, so X plus 2 squared, plus K, so plus 3. So that would be your final answer. All right, and that covers pretty much everything that you're going to see on your quiz. Again, it's not a crazy amount of content that we learned. It's just the stuff that we did learn. It takes a lot of steps to actually get your answer.
Is each part gonna count as like its own?
Yeah. So like it's not like an all or nothing kind of thing. It's not like, but okay, yeah. Sorry, that covers everything then.